guest today is Femi Anikulapo-Kuti, who was born 16th June 1962, Nigerian musician, born in London and raised in Lagos, eldest son of Afrobeat pioneer Fela Kuti. Good day, sir. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
You're welcome.
My first question would be, how was your relationship with your father?
It was okay.
Was there any special preference, being the first son that he had?
Not really. It was always fair in his dealings with everybody. He gave everybody kind of equal opportunity. Everybody was like an equal in the house. And it didn't really matter who was the eldest amongst us, the children.
What do you miss about your dad, his lifestyle, his musical legacy?
Probably his storytelling, his jokes, the way he could phrase the political environment into a phrase that everybody could assimilate and understand.
What didn't you miss?
What don't I miss? The arrest.
You don't miss the arrest?
I don't miss the arrest at all. There was always one arrest or one court or one very stressful.
How do you feel when the public out there makes demands of you to keep fulfilling Fela's musical and political flame when in fact you've already established yourself as an icon?
I ignore it because it's not my goal. If my goal was to be my father, then I would be towing that line. And the reason I sing political songs or act in a political manner sometimes is because that's my upbringing. I know no other life. I wish my life could even be more peaceful. I wish we didn't have the negative political atmosphere we did have. I wish everything was bright and beautiful. Unfortunately, it's not like that.
So you're saying you regret it?
I'm a realist. That is the life we find ourselves in. So it's unfortunate that it's so. I don't believe it should be like this, but I understand why it's like this. For it to be like this, one has to appreciate the history of this continent. You have to understand this continent has been under serious turmoil. The trans-Sahara slave trade, transatlantic slave trade, 100 years of colonial rule, 70, 60 years of bad African governments. What else do we expect? Our educational system is quite negative into the way we see ourselves. We don't like our names. We don't like our culture. We look down on anything that is African, and we look up to Europe and America. Most Africans want to pass university and go outside this continent. Nobody thinks inward. Our educational system does not make us believe in ourselves. And this is because the educational system was given to us by, in brackets, the colonial masters. You see, when you are reading the book in our days, the book will say colonial masters. Somebody who came, raped our women, killed our people. We write books and we call them colonial masters. So already the books have taught us to accept and understand that we'll always be subjects of Britain, not masters of our own destiny.
Fela once said, if there is a clean progressive government in one African country that knows what it is doing, the whole of Africa can be liberated. Is there a country in Africa today that fits this description?
No.
Even Nigeria?
You don't have petrol as we speak. Is it a joke?
No.
Many workers in most of the states have not been paid. The doctors keep going on strike. As we speak, University of Ife is on strike. There are many universities that are complaining.
We have other progressive countries like Rwanda.
Rwanda have just come out of a genocide. I don't think Rwanda, there is no news coming out of Rwanda that can be a leader in Africa. I think Rwandans have done well to combat their problems and have come out of that problems, are solving those problems. It's still very hard in Rwanda. But the question you asked is leadership to unite Africa and make Africa move in a certain direction. Rwanda haven't taken that role. I heard the speech by the Kenyan president who is saying all Africans are allowed to come to Kenya today without a visa. That's progressive thinking. But then it was marred by a very bad election. Everybody said the election was corrupt and the party that was opposing him did not take part. So is he allowed to make that kind of speech? But the speech I thought was very progressive. If he follows out with this kind of ideology, probably he will solve a lot of problems around his area. But leadership like we had in my father's days, like Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, where Ghana was in the forefront of leadership. Ghana changed its name from Gold Coast to Ghana. It was Ghanaian Black Stars. So everything was, everybody was looking up to Ghana as they were in the forefront of development through Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Another leader was Thomas Sankara, who told the same line as Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, changed the name of Burkina Faso to Upper Volta to Burkina Faso. And he was so progressive that every African loved him. So we are not seeing this with Rwanda or with the Kenyan leader or even in South Africa, that everybody wanted to emulate. People on the streets knew Sankara. The news that came out of Burkina Faso was so progressive that everybody loved him. The news that came out of Ghana then, everybody loved Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. So this is the kind of government I believe my father was talking about.
What's your perspective on the position of African women in African societies?
I think African women must take a major role. And it is the African culture and tradition that has always respected the woman. This problem of depriving the woman its role is not an African thing. It has never been and will never be. The African man loved his sister, he loved his mother, and protected his female partner. It is Christianity and Islam that brought wrongness to women through religion or their way of life. It wasn't African. African women became kings in Africa. African women were already holding leadership roles all over Africa before slavery. There was no committee that could sit without a woman being in that committee in any culture in Africa. For instance, Yalaje in Africa, the kings and chiefs could not sit and take any decision for the nation without a woman head being there.
So what ways would you suggest that we go back to how it used to be?
We have to go through, the only way is through serious government. Only government can have the propaganda and power to change our way of life. Only government can insist, for instance, that it's compulsory that all schools must learn an African language. Only government. What did Thomas Sankara do? He made sure that the attire of the culture of Burkina Faso in all ministries, everybody had to stop wearing the coat and tie. You must wear your African attire and design. What did that do? That helped all the indigenous tailors. It helped the raw materials. So everybody had to go to buy their fabric, and the tailors were making money. And nobody was wearing coat and tie to offices anymore in Burkina Faso. So only government can bring this kind of thinking. And it is not by dictatorship. It's by making people understand that do they wear African attire in American offices? Why must we emulate them? When they are even wearing suit and tie, it's because that place has winter and it's cold. You see our people dressed, strangling themselves with the tie and going to work, sweating in the bus stop, just because if you don't dress like that, you will not even get the job. So this is still that colonial way of thinking that has to be eradicated from our minds.
Let's go back to your personal life. Why did you decide to rebuild the shrine? Why did you give it the same name? And what is its role in culture, music, and history?
You are asking me too many questions in one. So why did we build the shrine? We built the shrine because the old shrine was taken from my father. And he thought he bought the land. And he had a case. He had been fighting it for over a decade. And the Benite family refused to sell the land back to us. And the court case, we were already going to lose because the law says when the disease dies, when the person fighting it dies, nobody in the family or anywhere can carry that case along. So we tried to settle it, they refused. We tried to buy it from them, they refused. So luckily at that point in time, Universal Music came to license my father's back catalog and give us this huge amount of money, which most of it went to my mother. So everybody thought or assumed I was a favorite, got me to talk to my mother to give us, she wanted to move back to England and get out of this country. Like most Nigerians, she was already tired, fed up. So we convinced her to give us that money to build this shrine in honor of my father. So why? Why we gave it the name the shrine? What does shrine mean in the dictionary? A sacred place. It is a sacred place. It's where we pay homage to great people like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Marcus Garvey, my father, and great Africans. We don't even know their name, who have fought for the emancipation of Africa. Bob Marley, Muhammad Ali. So it's a shrine. It embodies the spirit of Africa. And by standing against injustice, corruption, we worship or pay homage to Africa playing good music.
What's its role in culture, music, and history?
What's its role? I think it's in the forefront. Really, again, we wanted to have a studio here, a library, but then we ran out of funds. But now, if you go, it is probably now the biggest attraction center in Lagos State. The Lagos State government has accepted that it's a tourist sport, probably the biggest tourist sport. What more can you do for your society than building a place like this? And everybody outside this country, the first port of call, when they are arriving, they all want to come to the New African Shrine.
We all come from different backgrounds. That's what unites us. We all know life is about freedom of choice, and money transfer should be the same way. Introducing MoneyGram My Way. Send and receive money just about anywhere, using whatever method that works best for you.
Back to how you were raised, we understand that your father was quite a very liberal man. I read an interview where you did say that as at 12 you were already smoking. I don't know how true that is.
And driving.
Yes, and then clubbing and other things as well. So,
not clubbing, but driving, smoking.
Yes, smoking, driving.
Not smoking marijuana, smoking cigarettes.
Smoking cigarettes and driving.
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't start smoking marijuana until I was about 17.
Right. So my question is, when you compare how you were raised to some of the practices of today's parents, would you say that you had a better upbringing?
I think my father took a very big risk and it paid off, but I would never take that risk with my children.
Why wouldn't you?
Because I could have ended up very bad. I think with the help of my mother and her prayers, I turned out this way. But if I look back at my life, I've had to fight so many battles within and outside my life that I think were not necessary. That if there was some law and order in my life, probably my life wouldn't have been this chaotic. So I would not wish any of my children to go through that path. But then I understand why my father did what he did. I was like a guinea pig. He had to prove to his family that Western way of life in Africa was not the best for all of us. And I was used. And his thinking was, you didn't have to go to school to be a successful person. And so he put me on that path. And his family kept having meetings upon meetings because all their children went to school, they gave their children the best. And it was that everybody thought I would end up in the gutter.
Do you still think that thought is correct, that you don't have to go to school to be successful?
I think it's very important. I'm against the format of education.
Oh.
But I think, so that's why I say I understand what he did. So I didn't stop educating myself. I'm well read in a lot of like historical facts of history, in religion. I studied religion. I wanted to know more. I was fascinated about life and death.
Would you consider yourself a better father to your children?
Yes, definitely. With all due respect to my father, definitely I will floor him there easily.
In what ways?
Every way. Every way.
If you would advise today's young people or address a crowd of young people, what would you tell them?
It depends. I will have to tell them many things, so you'll have to be specific. If I had to address anybody right now, young people is generally, that would be very difficult because I think what young people should be focused on right now today is how to change this government. I think there's nothing more critical than young people taking their lives into their hands right now. And we have seen that our main problem right now is bad government. And if young people don't understand that they have no other home but this home, and it is their duty to rectify all the faults of today for their future and the future of their children, they are going to be in so much trouble that it will be unbelievable.
For instance, you saw what happened in Libya. I'm sure you heard about the Libya slave trade. What do you think about, the occurrences in Libya?
That thing has been going on for ages. It's just because CNN went there and interviewed, everybody's going crazy. But everybody knew it was going on. I was touring in 1990. I met a group of Nigerian girls doing prostitution in Côte d'Ivoire. Somebody had taken money from them and they were on their way to Europe and they got stranded and they had to do prostitution. And they were sleeping with so many men to pay the debt. So we asked them, why don't you go back? They said they were now stuck. They couldn't go back and they couldn't go forward. And we too, we didn't even have money to even help them. And even if we helped them, if we wanted to help them, they said they were still going to proceed. I couldn't even understand their way of thinking. Again, in 2001, 2, a lot of people were already dying making that trip through the Sahara Desert. Many Spanish journalists were asking me solutions about this. African governments knew all what was going on. Europeans knew all what was going on. It was, many of the embassies here have been caught with prostituting our women. They give them visas because they become prostitutes in many respective European countries. They have sacked heads of visa sections in many embassies in Nigeria here, which I know of. I don't want to mention them, but if you do your research, you will find out that many embassies here have been given, there was a ring of just giving women, getting them to Europe to do prostitution in many European countries. So it has been going on for a long time. Is that not slavery? That's slavery. But then, African leaders cannot tell us, if somebody like me knew this, African leaders cannot tell us with the SSS and all the state's security, cannot say they don't know what has been going on this continent. So what have they done to give young people the guarantee that they have a life here? Which goes back to the initial questions we had at the beginning. Every young person in this country wants to get out of this country. 99% of Nigerians want to get out of Nigeria. If they had the opportunity, if you sit a Nigerian down, say, take tickets, go to Europe, America now. They will not even think twice. They will just take it, bah, they are gone. They don't know what they are going to do there. They don't know how they will survive there. And let me tell you, I was even kind of like that. In 1981, a girlfriend of mine paid my way to America. And the next time I went, my mother paid me through my father's manager. We just wanted to go. When I got there with my girlfriend, my experience wasn't so nice. I felt like a liability. So I came back. 2 weeks, I was back. The next time was I left my father, and I thought if I got to America, I could start a band. My father's manager, one guy called Pascal, says, come, come. Probably he didn't believe I would get the money to come. So I arrived in New York. Hey, Pascal, we're here. Pascal says, where? I said, Kennedy Airport. He said, eh? Okay, call me back in 1 second. I called back. He didn't pick up the phone. One girlfriend, Tuti, she was staying in the Bronx. Her mother paid $20 for us. My best friend at that time, Delicious me, we took a cab to the Bronx, and we stayed there for a couple of weeks. It was another experience I had that we just arrived. We didn't know what we were going to do. I mean, why will a young person make that kind of journey? We now became, she was feeding us, and there you put on the water, you are paying. You are eating, everything is money. There is nothing free, and we were totally broke. Dele, this is not for us. Dele didn't understand where I was coming from. Look, if we must start our band, let's go back home. When we wanted to try to start a band, they put an all-white band. No black American in the band. I said, you know what will happen? In a couple of years, they will take this thing from us, and we will be like slaves here. Dele found it hard to understand, but he followed me back to Nigeria, and we started the Positive Force Band. Positive Force Band has turned out to be one of the best bands in the world because we stayed here, we weathered the storm, and see, we have the shrine. We still have the name, and I still have my name, and people appreciate me when I come out of this continent and I present Africa to the world. I think it's different when you are there. They'll always let you know you are a second-rate citizen in that country. When I'm there, I'm a visitor. I have a British passport through my mother.
What are your fears about Nigerian music in the Nigerian industry today? My
fear is that not enough young people are learning. But I think that fear is dying down a bit because I know a lot of schools are insisting, if you are going to, a lot of schools are teaching musical instruments and teaching children how to read or write. So probably that's a saving grace. But there's a big generation, they just want to go, find a gimmick, make one kind of music, they become hits, they get a lot of money. The problem now with that is, what will they do? Because it's really for a time. What would they do when they become 50? You can't be behaving like a teenager at 50. So the next generation will be more daring, they will be more everything than you, they will have their own audience. Then you become irrelevant. And this happened in my generation too. Many of us that grew up in this industry, you don't hear of their names anymore because they had nothing to offer. They were just making quick money. Music is the only profession that touches you and you can't touch. So the composer, artist must put himself at the disposal of the creator and creation.
Lastly, what has become of democracy in Nigeria today as the current president, Muhammadu Buhari, is the same man who sent your father to prison, for 5 years straight up?
I don't think there's any democratic government in Africa. It's a joke. 2, why do democracy is not European. When you understand the historical facts of your culture and tradition, you will know religion was stolen from us. This so-called democratic process was stolen from us. What did African people do? In a community, we understood governance. So let's say now, this community now, we wanted Lagos now. This area will now elect a chief to represent them at a meeting. So probably would elect you. We'll all vote for you. So you are not better than me. We have just elected you to speak on our behalf. And you must be reasonable. So when you go and meet the community in Ikeja bus stop or the chief in this place or blah, 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 you are represented. Then we now understood that, wow, we need, out of all these chiefs, we need one king to represent us, because if you go to Benin Republic or Cotonou or Cameroon, they had the same king. So we needed one person to represent us there when other kings are meeting. Not the king was better than the rest of us. So this system, when we elect that chief, it was a democratic process. Who do we vote to represent us? 2, it had to be unanimous. It wasn't 40, 51, 149. Because, so, when you even see the American system, it's in chaos. When you see European, it's really anarchy in a way. Mild anarchy. It had to be unanimous because it doesn't mean if 99 people said yes, they were right. That one person, they will sit down, Oga or Madam, why don't you accept us to go this way? And that one person will now have to convince the other 99 people why he or she is right. But they will not get up from that chair till there is an unanimous decision on who they're electing or whatever decision that this is the path to go. So when you read books, you will see great Egyptians had done we could have gone this way of industrial revolution. But they understood that if we went this way, in 100 years, 200 years, the earth will be suffering. By the time we are washing our clothes with detergent, we are polluting the sea, the rivers, the plants will die, the ships will spill oil. So it's not that we didn't have the intelligence to do that. It's the kings and chiefs knew that we had to walk, this planet had to be healthy. So when you go into the African culture and tradition, you will see everything was to do with health. So when they said we are not wearing clothes, it's not we are not wearing clothes. Clothes was not fashioned to be, if I have 1,000 clothes, so what? The more clothes you have, the more chaotic your life and you are making the world. So if you are going to make fabric, it must be earth-friendly. Everything the African did must be earth-friendly. Then slavery started and every chaos came and they now went and they revolutionized and they went the industrial way. And even people then, when you read books, kept saying this way is bad. Now what do we have? Climate change. And the future is bleak. And they all know it except for some people. But the majority of world leaders, through scientists, and they are not telling us how grave the matter is. Because if they told us how grave the matter is, there will be pandemonium right now. Everybody will just start panicking. They know. They know how grave the earth is breaking. And there is total big problems, so to say, coming if we do not curb this nasty way, this selfish attitude the human race has indulged in. And it's a fact. It's not me saying it, but all I'm just saying is the African culture and tradition knew this long ago from Egyptian times. So it's not like the African people were unintelligent. And lastly, just to elaborate your point, we all know, I have said it many times, the African culture was very friendly with itself. We knew the importance of music. There was nothing we did without music and dance. Nothing in the... Every day in Africa was a celebration. So when the first explorers came, they are explorers. Like my father said, they said Mungo Park discovered the River Niger. For who? So when we are reading those books, we read this book, Mungo Park discovered the river. Then we, as children, because children and our parents were so naive and stupid not to correct us, to say, who did this book is wrong. What is my child reading? Go to the school, this is wrong. Go to the government, this is wrong. Mungo Park discovered the river for who? River Niger for who? Didn't he meet us there? Who showed him the way? So the book should say, Mungo Park discovered River Niger for Europeans, and his agenda was blah, 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 blah. That is how to write that book. But we wrote the book in praises of these explorers who came as agents of Europe and America to come and see what we were doing to come and enslave us eventually. That was the plan. Until today, Europe and America don't want to accept what they have done, the chaos. So they look at us and they talk to us with disdain, as if we are like we are, out of ourselves. But we are this way, like I said. If you don't understand the historical facts, you will not understand why we are misbehaving the way we are, why we are fighting amongst ourselves. Again, I want to ask you a question. Can you crack a Jewish joke, even if it's good, about the Holocaust? You dare not. You see, when the Jewish community descend on you, that will be the last day you will mention Jew in your life. They have not allowed the African to think like this. The most healthy, massive continent on the planet of the earth. If we controlled our resources and our lives, this place would be the envy of the world. Why don't our leaders? I don't know if you have been to Europe, but have you seen the railway lines? When I'm just in awe when I'm in Europe or America. There are roads. In America, you just see 6 lanes going, 6 lanes coming. You just be saying, Then you have to think, why can't Africa be like this? Then you just see. Then when they do 2 lanes in Ikorodu, you see our people say, yeah. Oh, okay. That's only 1 road, though. When you go from Lagos to Abuja, God help you. I've been on that road 2 times. It's worse than I was there in 1979 when I traveled Lagos, Abuja in 79. I traveled there last year. It's worse than that. The houses on my left, on my right, revolting, pitiful, shameful, disgusting. And we call ourselves independent. We call ourselves a nation. But then, should I be so critical? No, especially that I know why we are like that. I know why we are like that. And it will probably take us another 50 or 100 years to come out of this situation. But if there wasn't Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, my father, many people, probably even somebody like me would just be saying, look, hey, today is Christmas Eve. Hey, Jesus is Christmas Eve. Then I will look down on Ogun Lakaye. I will look down on Yemoja. I will look down on my culture. I will probably not be called Femi. I will be, hey, my father even gave me the name Femi. Why did he even change Ransom Kuti? Look, I prefer, look, my name now is Matthew Ransom. I hate that Kuti even. Oh, look, just call me Matthew Ransom. And you'll be talking to me, and I will change my stage name because I want to be European. So you see, there are so many factors wrong with us that it will take us a while. But because Africa didn't come here in a day. The problems didn't start in a day. It started centuries, so many years. And everybody has always been attacking the culture of Africa. There was a pharaoh, Akhenaton, who reduced the size of army to a police force because he had conquered everybody. And he just said, so much blood, let's live in peace. People say that was his biggest mistake. But he was a visionary. The world had to live in peace. We couldn't keep on killing. But Africa had conquered the world. Do you know I was in a castle in Rome? There was a black king in Rome. Black people ruled Italy. Black people ruled Europe. They don't teach us. These are the historical facts that you'll be teaching our children from primary school. So, do you know what? We grew up with confidence and pride. But we grew up like adoring Europe. But if we were taught facts, every young boy and girl will be thinking, how can I make Nigeria great? We will not even be called Nigeria. We'll have changed the name to Ghana or Burkina Faso. We will say, why should Lady Ligard or whoever, they sat down making love, having sex, now say, hey, baby, I'm going to give you this name. This is your area, Niger area. And that is what we are proud of. And if you talk to any Nigerian and say, I'm against that name, they will just start to fight you, see, because they have brainwashed us so much that we must fight ourselves. They teach us that we were killing twins. We were killing twins. Are you sure? In my own culture, we didn't kill kings. So there is Taiwan and Kende. I don't know which culture. They say it was somewhere in Port Harcourt. Are we sure that really happened? But they gave us that to read. And if it did happen, there is no society where you will not find 1 or 2 wrongs. Doesn't mean you cannot now judge and generalize. So back to the name shrine. So we named this place shrine. They say shrine. and everybody just thinks we are killing people and blah, 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 blah. And none of them can even think, if we are killing people or doing anything wrong, the SSS will have closed this place. But now, the governor of Lagos State, the first governor, sitting governor, came to acknowledge that there is greatness happening here. So everybody is confused. If the governor, oh, then Femi must be APC, they quickly join and conclude. They can't see that Femi can stand and be a factor on his own, and somebody can just appreciate that what is going on between the Kuti, Femi's elder sister, and himself have managed to keep the integrity and heritage of Africa. I will not even say their father, of Africa intact. That when we say shrine, doesn't mean negativity. And if some people have bastardized that word, it's not our fault. But there is some good. It's a shrine. A shrine is a sacred place where we pay homage to great people. Why can't Nigerians understand that?
Thank you very much, Mr. Femi Kuti, for this interview.
We all come from different backgrounds. That's what unites us. We all know life is about freedom of choice, and money transfer should be the same way. Introducing MoneyGram My Way. Send and receive money just about anywhere, using whatever method that works best for you.